Hi, it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. Glad to be back with you again this evening. Tonight is our night that we get to do a Bible story. So, if you remember, we've been telling stories about Daniel and his friends who were taken captive by the armies of Babylon. And we just finished reading how Daniel had prayed and asked God to help him be able to learn about the king's dream, and that the king couldn't even remember, and what that dream meant. And God answered his prayer. And the king was so pleased with Daniel and his friends. That was their names in Hebrew. Their names in Babylon, they were given new names, and you'll hear those ones later. That he put them in great power over Babylon, gave them a great job raise. So we're going to continue on this story. This one's called The Golden Idol. That dream about the metal image made a great impression on Nebuchadnezzar. Do you remember the image, what it looked like? How it had a head of gold. I'll show it to you. Anyhow, made a big impression on King Nebuchadnezzar. At first he didn't think he could remember it, but with Daniel helping, he did remember. And it was quite a dream, but there was one thing that he did not like about that dream at all. That was the suggestion that one day his kingdom would end. Well, he didn't like that idea at all. So he got an idea. And he thought, if I can make Babylon strong enough, surely it will last forever as the kingdom and not be taken over by other countries. So he decided to make an image, kind of like the one he saw in the dream, but only of one metal, gold. Like the other one had a gold head, and that represented his kingdom. Now he wanted the whole body, the head and the chest, the arms, the torso and the legs, and even the feet and toes, all made of gold. So he gave orders for that image to be made, and the work was carried out. And it was a gigantic image. When it was completed, it stood about 100 feet tall. Now, I'm 5 feet tall. So that would be like 20 of me, one on top of the other. That'd be really tall. And that was including its pedestal, or what it stood on. It was very wide at the shoulders and all gold. Can you even imagine that? Crowds must have gathered to watch as the great shining idol was carried out of the city and set up in the midst of the plain of Dura. I'm sure that soldiers went along and to guard it. After all, they didn't want anybody to break off those toes made of gold. Everybody wondered what the king planned to do with such a huge image in such a place, but they didn't have to wait very long. Soon word spread everywhere that Nebuchadnezzar had sent messengers throughout the whole Babylonian Empire, commanding princes and governors and captains and judges, counselors and sheriffs, and all the rulers to come to the dedication of the image. And I'll show you what that image looks like. Look how big it is compared to those people. So one and all they came. And a great sight it must have been, with all those important people, and each one with bringing many of their servants. And they began to arrive at the capital. When the day of dedication arrived, tens of thousands of people gathered on the plains of Dura. Men, women, boys, and girls. Some, no doubt, camped out the night before to make sure they got a good place to be able to see what was going to happen. Others started coming early in the dawn, bringing their lunches with them. Everyone was excited, especially the children. For wasn't the king himself going to be coming to the show and the royal band performing the music? More and more people arrived. The crowd became thicker and thicker, especially towards the center, where the great golden image towered above all. Suddenly, a hush fell over the mighty throng. Everyone was quiet. And a richly dressed herald began to speak. Now, that was somebody who was paid to be the talker and give messages to the people. Slowly, in a loud, clear voice, he said, "To you it is commanded, O people, nations, and languages, that at the time that you hear the music, it can be a cornet or a flute, harp, all kinds of music, you are to fall down and worship the image of Nebuchadnezzar, the king. Then he added this warning: whoever doesn't fall down and worship when the music goes off will be cast into the middle of a burning furnace. Then the band began to play. Just what sort of music they played, we don't know. But we do know when they began to play, people began to drop down on their faces all over the plain, bowing down to that image. Nebuchadnezzar looked over at the amazing scene from his royal throne, and he felt very pleased. This was just what he planned. Everybody bowing to his image. No, his empire would never end. Not with such obedience as this. And the little touch of a fiery furnace to help things along. But he didn't stay happy very long, for far out among the kneeling crowd, he noticed a disturbance. Some people were actually still standing. Yeah, standing. "What's the matter?" he demanded of those around him. "It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Your Majesty," said his counselors. Now that was the name for Daniel and his friends. You know, the 3 young Hebrews who you promoted not very long ago? They refused to bow down to your golden image. Now the reason they did that is because we are never to have any false gods before us. We're certainly not to bow down and worship them. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So Daniel and his friends, they wouldn't do it. Even if it meant they were going to be thrown into a fiery furnace, they would not do it. "What?" cried Nebuchadnezzar in rage. "Bring them here. I'll teach them to disobey me." Suddenly, soldiers brought the 3 young men through the crowd while everybody looked up to see what was going on. Quickly, the news spread. Voices buzzed. "Did you see that?" one said to another. 3 young men refused to bow to the golden idol. They've been arrested and taken before the king. What do you think is going to happen to them? By this time, the people were far more interested in the 3 young Hebrews than they had been in the image. The dedication was completely spoiled. And this is what it would have looked like. Can you see the 3 boys standing? Bring it up a little more. Everybody else was down, but not them. Well, that's where we're going to end for now. They're going for King Nebuchadnezzar, and he is mad. Well, in a couple days, we'll read what happens next. So it's Maria from Still Dreaming Homestead. I want to pray blessings on you and yours, in your house and out of your house, in the day and in the night. Whatever you do, keep dreaming. And remember, we are never to worship a false god. All right, good night. I'll be back tomorrow with a different type of story.